Alright everybody, so I'm gonna put my seatbelt on for this video because I just don't like it though, but the fucking bell's gonna keep ringing. Anyways, with that being said, I know it's the law, right? You gotta follow the law. I want to talk to you guys today about a topic that triggers on scoped rifles. This is something that I believe every rifle that you put a scope on should have a good trigger. Should have a better than good trigger. Should have a great trigger. Because what's the reason for having a scope on an AR? And that is you want accuracy, right? You want more accuracy. You want. Okay, let's talk about why we put a scope on a rifle. You always try to be as closest to the target as you can so that you can make an accurate shot. So say for instance, you shoot out to, you're shooting at 3 yards. You shoot a target at 3 yards. Your group is going to be pretty damn good, right? Your eyesight, you as a human, 3 yards is nothing. You can shoot 3 yards without hesitation. But once you go beyond that, a lot of it plays to factor because you can't see that far. You can't really put the post on the target. Whether you shoot an irons or pistol or whatever. Let's talk about rifles. So you can't put that post on that target exactly where you think it might be, or exactly where you think it needs to be, so that you can place the shot on the target. So what do? We put a scope on a rifle, and we bring the target to us. Okay, so what does that do? It does two things. It brings the target closer to you, and it makes you see the target closer. I know that's probably the same thing, but it also creates fundamentals. I mean, you have to have the fundamentals to place shots on that target, because when you bring that target to you, it's still far away. So any little movement is still going to move the bullet. If you move it inches or centimeters, millimeters, whatever, hairs of a frog where you are, it becomes hairs of a boar downrange, just for example. It becomes further downrange. So to really implement you putting the scope on a rifle, and why you do that, you want to be closer to the target, but you're bringing it to you. So if you were shooting something at 3 yards and you had kind of a fucked up trigger, it wouldn't really matter because the bullet's not traveling that far. The target is at 3 yards. Whether if you were shooting at something that's 60 yards, but it looks like 3 yards in your scope, you have to have fundamentals to shoot and place the rounds on target. And just putting the scope on a rifle and bringing the target to you isn't gonna cover it. You have to have a good trigger. If you have a trigger that has a lot of creep, has a lot of grit, and you press the shots, that's not gonna make it better. That's not gonna make it great. You need to have a good trigger that doesn't disturb your sights when you press that shot. So then when you press the shot, it's just smooth break. Whether it be a smooth, and then you feel a little wall, and then you got a little clean break, that's a good trigger. My trigger on my AR, I put a scope on it, and it's got it's like a single stage. It's just all smooth break. There's no wall. It's just smooth break. Very little take up on the smoothness part. After you get the initial trigger break, slack, it's just really smooth. But there's very little trigger slack on my AR. So I think I know that attributes to better placement at shots, longer ranges or downrange. And I thought I'd talk about that. I don't know if you guys have talked about it in the past. I haven't really seen a video on that. But you don't want to put a scope, a really high power scope, because I got a 104 on my AR, and if it had a kind of a decent trigger, or one that had grit, I would say would be Minute of Man. It wouldn't hurt me because I'd say like in a situation where I have to shoot a human body is pretty wide. You know, let's say 16 inches or greater. It depends on how big the guy is. If it's me, I'm probably like 18 or 19 inches wide, or maybe better. And if you had a pretty sloppy trigger, you wouldn't. It wouldn't really matter, I guess, as long as you got in between somewhere on the human at 100 yards per se. Say you're in a situation where that guy's at 100 yards and I gotta shoot him with this fucked up trigger, but I got a scope on her, so it looks like he's at 20 yards from where I'm at. So I can make 20-yard shots all day, every day. So you press the shot, you hit the target. Well, that's fine. But if you go out to the range and you want to put bullet on top of bullet, or you're shooting for accuracy, you're on a bench, and you really need to make that shot count, you need a good trigger. And I don't know. I just thought of that. I don't know what you guys, where you guys are on it. That's where I'm at on it. I think that you should have a great trigger if you're gonna put a scope on your rifle. And I got the 1.4 power, and it does great. It has a good trigger, and keep going over that again and again. But it's something that I think should be said. If you guys are interested in making some comments, go ahead and leave them down below. And I'm gonna do some stuff here, and I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.